your reputation can turn into revenue if you do the right things. And we're going to discuss why personal brand is changing so much due to AI and all of these other things.
And is that if you don't have a personal brand, when AI comes, you're just dead. They can get the information from anywhere.
Yep.
Right? And so you go, why would they pay attention to you? They pay attention not for information, but for connection.
I've got Rory Vaden. What's up, man?
Hey, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you actually just gave me your brand new book, Wealthy and Well Known. So I'm excited to talk about what's in here. And, everyone else is going to be able to get this actually for free too.
Stick around. We'll give you the audiobook for free.
Yep. So we'll talk about that. But man, let's just jump right into it. Personal brand. I mean, what's changing, right? You've been helping people build their brands for, probably over a decade now. Like, why write a new book? What's happening?
Well, I mean, AI is happening right now, right? That's all the craze. And I think, one thing that people need to understand is that if you don't have a personal brand, when AI comes, you're just dead. Because they can get the information from anywhere.
Yep.
Right? And so you go, why would they pay attention to you? They pay attention not for information, but for connection. They want your opinion, your story. And there's actually an old school example of this, which is Rush Limbaugh, right? So Rush Limbaugh isn't around anymore, but he was like the king of radio. And love him or hate him, he had millions and millions of people who would listen to him on the radio. And it wasn't for the news. Like, you could get the news from anywhere. The reason that people listened to Rush was to get his take on the news. Some people listened because they were like, yes, like this guy knows. Other people listened because they hated him and they passionately disagreed. And I think this is sort of the era that we're stepping into, is to go, if you don't know how to tell your story, if you can't articulate your own sort of personal opinions and passions, it's like, I don't need to pay attention to you just for information. I'm really there for connection. But most people are not clear on their personal brand.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you look at like the world right now as we're filming, you got this Iran thing going on, you got tariffs going on, and it's like, the information is the information. This is what's happening. And then the next logical step is, okay, who are people that I like and trust, and what do they think about what's happening?
Yeah, we rely on friends and family, and also subconsciously, other influencers and personalities, and to sort of interpret the world around us. And that helps us. It helps us make sense of complicated things. But it's amazing how you can see, whether you watch Fox or you watch MSNBC, like you see
you can go get whatever it is you want to
go get whatever you want. But I think in the world of personal branding, right? Like you mentioned some of the like more celebrity clients that we're known for working with, but most of the clients we work with are not famous yet. Like, they're entrepreneurs, they're experts, they're professional service providers, financial advisors, chiropractors, CPAs, lawyers. And
yeah, they don't have huge followings.
They don't have huge followings. Well, one of the other mistakes I think that people are making in personal branding right now is they're spending all their time focusing on wit, that they're overlooking the power of depth. Like, everyone is trying to go viral, thinking that, the way to make money with all this is to go viral. But if you look at what makes a video go viral, in its most basic essence, it's a video that appeals to everybody.
Correct.
And so that's why it is the news, or it's something about money, or something about relationships, or usually it's pranks and it's memes and it's, fantasy football.
Entertainment.
It's entertainment.
Yep.
It's entertainment. But just because I have a funny cat video get viewed by 1 million people doesn't mean that I'm going to earn anyone's trust. It doesn't mean that they're going to buy from me. And so a huge part of how you make money from a personal brand, it's really the game of trust. We're trying to automate trust at scale, because trust always must take place before there's a transaction. But when you use virality as the scoreboard, or followers as the scoreboard, or like number of likes and views, what you're doing is you're trying to create general content that applies, it's ubiquitous. It applies to the most number of people. Well, there's another word for that in business, which is commoditization. It is general, not specific. It's vague. It's universal. But that's not how you get rich. That's not how most people are going to get rich from a personal brand. The way most of us are going to get rich is by serving a smaller audience in a deeper way. And the next era of the internet is going to be these smaller and smaller niche communities. Look at Brand Builders Group, right? I don't have even more than 100,000 followers, but we are an 8-figure business. We went from 0 to 8 figures in 5 years. We have about 1,000 clients, but we serve a very specific group, mission-driven messengers, as we call them. So they're all experts and entrepreneurs who specifically want to drive leads to their business through teaching.
Yep.
And it's super narrow. A lot of our clients have millions and millions of followers, but maybe not as much revenue as a business.
Yep.
So there's
like a mix. There's those who have following, and yeah, your ultra successful people have following and revenue.
Sure.
Then, there's following and not as much revenue. Then you have someone who's like, no one really knows about yet, but dude, they are just killing it.
Yeah. And for most people listening to this, that they're going to fall into the latter category.
Yep.
But that's not how they do personal branding. That's not how they think of it. That's not their paradigm. So one of the things that we tell people is that when you hear the word personal brand, we define personal branding as the formalization, the digitization, and the monetization of your reputation. So reputation is something people understand. Reputation is more of an old word. It's more of an offline word, and we equate that with trust. But when people hear personal branding, they tend to think viral and large audiences and followers and social media. But I think that's a mistake, because we all know that the dentist down the street is wealthy and making plenty of money, and he's not famous.
Yep.
We all know that the local lawyer or the local nutritionist or the local, the best carpenter in town makes a bunch of money and he's not famous. Well, the same is true in an online world. You don't need millions of followers to make millions of dollars. Most small businesses would double or triple their best year in revenue ever if all they had was like a dozen more customers. So it's like, why are we chasing millions of views when for most of us, the fastest path to cash is to just get like another 10 of our perfect customers? And the way you get 10 of your perfect customers is by not appealing to the masses, not creating generic, shallow content, but by serving smaller audiences in a deeper way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. And I'll just tell you from my standpoint, I got into this game of social media, man, over 5 years ago, during COVID. And, let's just say I'm on the outlier side of things. It worked out for me, and I got the views and the revenue and the followers and, all this stuff way more than I would have ever imagined. But I know so many business people who make so much more money than me, have built bigger things than me, and they may not have the virality that I have, but they're absolutely killing it and doing great things. And people know them in their niche, in their industry, and they're the person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also know people who are just like full-on YouTubers, and they make prank videos, they react to the news, and they're really not doing much. And they have people know them, but there's not much beyond that. It's like not a lot of substance.
There's a lot of people who are follower rich and dollar broke.
A lot. And so I think that if we're entrepreneurs, and this is the way I look at it too, I don't think of myself as an entertainer, which is like what I would consider like a Rush Limbaugh of like, if you're just somebody who comments on the news, you are an entertainer by default.
Or a YouTube prankster, same.
I mean, sports, celebrities, Hollywood, they're entertainment, right? But if you're like an entrepreneur who's running a business, then it's like, okay, well, I make my money from running different businesses. And so I need to attract the right person to whatever it is I do. And there's only so many people who want to do what I sell, right? Who are clients for what I sell. It's not the masses. So, it's just kind of this weird thing where it's like, we as entrepreneurs want to be huge and like well-known, but at the same time, it's just not the case.
Well, and you're touching in on something that we talk about. There's really only 3 different types of content strategy. We call them the 3 E's. So the first one is entertainment, which you hit, right? It's all the celebrities, the gossip. Also, I'd put news in that category and sports.
Yep.
The second E is encouragement, right? And these are like the pastors and the motivational
Self-help.
speakers and the self-help. But then the 30 is the one that I think applies the most to people listening to this, which is education.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that you have to be a course creator or launch a membership site or build a coaching company. You could, but that's not the fastest path to cash for most people. The fastest path to cash for most people is to use your personal brand as a traffic source to the thing you already do.
Yep.
So basically, you teach everything you know for free in small bite-sized chunks and all random miscellaneous order online to automate trust at scale. Then all you're doing is you're driving those leads into the business and the machine you already have. And that you just don't hear that as much online because it's not as sexy, right? It's not as clickbait. But the people who are making real money besides the ones we all hear about, and some of those are our more famous clients, right? Like Lewis Howes makes plenty of money. He does it as a podcaster. That's his number one, stream of income. But that is few and far between.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Lewis texted me last week, actually. I haven't talked to him in a minute. And he's like, I think you're going to like this new content I'm doing. I was like, oh, what do you got? And he sent me this vlog of him training for the Olympics again.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you're an athlete, so I think you're going to like that I'm trying to make a comeback in my 40s. And I'm like, bro,
Good luck.
You're crazy, dude. Like, coming back to sports in your 40s, that's a tough one. But like, I'm like, you're right, though. It is great content to see.
And what is he doing there? He's wrapping us into a personal story.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's creating content that cannot be created by AI.
Yeah.
Right? Lewis's story, like this comeback story of this childhood dream that he's had to be a professional athlete and play in the Olympics. And like everyone who's followed him has heard the heartbreak of, how his football career ended, and that dream has always been there. So it's like, it's really interesting to see, right? Like that can't be created somewhere else.
Yep. So obviously, we know that getting your audience to buy whatever it is you sell, right? Ideally, it's your current business that people would want to even know you for and do business with you for. And I'll be honest too, like what happened with me was I started making content in that way. So I was flipping houses here in Las Vegas. I started making Facebook posts in like 2016. Okay. There was no I guess YouTube and Instagram were around, but they weren't what they are today, right?
Yeah.
There was no TikTok. And I start making these Facebook posts just telling people about what I'm doing. I'm like, hey, here's the house I flipped. Here's how much we made. Here's how we found the deal. And what happened was people started sending me deals. People started giving me money to go invest into more deals. And so I was just feeding my core business. And so I can tell you, nobody knew me outside of Las Vegas. I just did really good in putting myself out there so that realtors in Las Vegas knew me, that people with money that were already friends of mine knew that I was actually like making money, doing different things, and that they had this opportunity to invest their money. And I would say from 2016 through 2019, that was all I used social media for.
That's it.
It just fed my business and it grew it to a 7-figure business, and I became a millionaire. And it was a huge part of my strategy to get more deals and raise more capital.
And it's trust.
It's trust.
I mean, that is, there you go, folks, like real life case study of exactly what we're talking about. That is the multiplication, the digitization of your reputation. You took what you were doing offline, like what did you know something about? And, the best piece of personal branding advice I've ever received was from a guy named Larry Winget. And Larry said, the goal is to find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others.
Yep.
The moment I heard that, I was like, that's it. That makes sense. But Larry never had a system for how to find someone's uniqueness. And so part of what we do in this book, and again, we'll give it away for free here in a minute on audio, is we created a system over the last 7 years, a process that we take people through to help them find their uniqueness. It started out as a 2-day experience with Lewis Howes. He was our very first customer. And he was the one that said, this was so powerful. I'm going to have you on my show and we're going to tell the whole world that this is what you do.
Yeah.
Then, it's a book, right? And we'll give you the audiobook, but here's the shortcut. Okay. So if I had to boil it all down to like in one sentence, Here's the consistent pattern that we didn't know when we started the company, but we know it now. For all of us, you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were.
Mm.
You're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. That doesn't mean you have to make your personal brand about that, but that is where the most natural opportunity for momentum lies. And look at what you do. You, again, are a living, breathing example of this. You're teaching people to do things that you spent years figuring out yourself.
Yep.
And that's why it works, right? To the untrained eye, they might just go, oh, this guy is really cool and I like his stuff. And, I like that he's a Christian and he makes money and like he's really smart. But they don't realize that you're going, I'm teaching people to do the things that I personally have done. And that is where your credibility comes from. Your credibility doesn't come from how many followers you have.
Yeah.
Your credibility certainly doesn't come from your college degree, right? Or what credentials you have after your name. For most professions, for a few, it still does. But for the majority of us, our credibility comes from the fact that we have overcome those obstacles, that we have pushed past those problems, that we have walked through that pain ourselves. And now there are other people who are trying to do that, and we know exactly what the path is. And that can be a very, very lucrative opportunity that serves a small group of people. It doesn't have to serve millions of people.
Yeah.
But, that's how we started Brand Builders Group. Like, Brand Builders Group started unexpectedly. We had built our first company to 8 figures, and then we split from that company fairly suddenly. And so we didn't know what we were going to do. But our initial financial vision was, if we could get 1,000 people to pay us $1,000 a month, then that would be $1 million a month.
Yep.
And that's a $12 million business. And we had built a business already at that level. And so that was our deal. We call it 1,000 messengers.
Okay.
So that's 1,000 clients.
Yep.
That's 1,000. Like, most of the people listening to this, if you had 50 of your perfect client, it would rock your world.
Yeah.
So why aren't we chasing the 50? We're oriented towards the wrong scoreboard. Now,
yeah, we want the masses when really we want the 50 or the 1,000.
Yeah. In fact, so here's a mathematical version of this. So can I nerd out for a second?
Yep.
Okay. So one of the monetization strategies that we teach, because that's a part of what we do, is something called fractal math.
What does fractal mean for those who don't know?
Okay. So I'll explain it. So stick with me for a minute. Okay. So fractal math means that 10% of your customers will invest at a level 10 times what they've already invested. Okay, so let's say you start with a product that's $30 and you have 1,000 customers. That's $30,000 in revenue. 1,000 people each give you $30, 30 grand.
Yep.
If I then pose the question, what's the fastest way to double your business? Most people would say, go get another 1,000 customers.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a bad answer, but it's not the fastest way to double your business.
Yeah.
The fastest way to double your business is fractal math. So 10% of your customers, so you had 1,000, so 10% of that is 100.
Yep.
Will invest 10 times more, meaning 100 people of the 1,000 will give you $300 instead of 30. That's also 30,000. So just like 30 times 1,000 is 30,000, 300 times 100 is 30,000.
And let me add to that too. It's going to be more profitable, most likely too, because you don't have to acquire the customers again.
Which is the most expensive customer you ever have is a new one.
Yep.
Both in terms of money like cost, but also in terms of time, because remember, trust must take place before there's a transaction.
Yep.
It takes time to create trust. So now what's cool about fractal math is it keeps going. So if 100 people gave you $300, that means that 10% of them, which is 10 people, would give you $3,000.
Yep.
That's 30,000 again. And if 10 people gave you 3,000, that means one of those 10 would give you 30,000.
Mm-hmm.
you have quadrupled your revenue, 30,000, 30,000, 30,000, 30,000, without adding a single new customer.
And I personally can attest to this. I have seen it play out time and time again. We will have, you've spoken at my events before, but let's take an event like
they're amazing, by the way. If you've never been to one of your events,
thank you.
You blow the roof off.
Thank you. So, let's just say that we sell 1,000 tickets for $100, right? So, it's $100,000.
Yep.
And then I know that there's 10% who will buy $1,000 thing. So it's like, okay, that's also 100,000. What is that? That's 100 people who buy the $1,000 thing.
It's another $100,000.
Yep. And then I also know that now there are
10 people
who will buy a $10,000 thing for sure.
Because they want dinner or coaching or whatever. Yep.
And then I know there's one person who will pay $100,000 and they will do a one-on-one. They'll do, lots of different things. Like I have literally seen that play out literally in a weekend.
In one event.
I've watched it play out.
Yep. So what's the point of all this, right? The point is to go, you don't have to go viral to get rich. In fact, I would argue the more you try to make that your strategy, the more likely you are to be broke. Why? Because one, you're competing with the best creators in the world.
Yeah.
So one of my clients recently is Cody Sanchez.
Yep.
And she is a major baller.
Yep.
And she just hired a guy named Mark, who was the president of Mr. Beast.
Okay.
And so he was working and running Mr. Beast for years. And he was telling me stories about how they would spend $1 million on a video and then just throw the video away.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole nother level that they're playing, right? That's a big game. That's who you're competing with, right?
Yeah.
You're competing with that kind of budget and sophistication to play that game. And if you get 1 million views, you made like $5, like from the platforms. So the real way that we're going to monetize is by building trust with the platforms and then selling to those people something that is off platform. Now, again, if you change your orientation, right? If you change your posture to go, I'm going to stop trying to chase millions of people, and I'm going to instead focus my personal brand on being a true expert, adding real value, and monetizing through trust. Here's the other thing you start to realize that nobody talks about today. Everybody is focused on new customers, right? Like you can run funnels and ads and do all of these opt-ins and lead magnets. You hear about that stuff all the time.
Yep.
Every real business owner knows that the shortest distance between your current customer and your next customer is through the current customer.
Referrals.
It's through referrals, right? And how do you get referrals? You get referrals from people who you help. You get referrals from people who trust you. You get referrals, like the best form of marketing in the world is a changed life.
Yeah.
And yet that's not sexy, apparently, and nobody talks about that anymore. We just go, how do I get more views?
More.
More. And where it's like, we should be doing is go, how do we use these tools to serve the people in front of us? So yes, you can use AI to bring in new impressions. I'm not against it. I'm not against the new. I'm not against the expansion. But what I'm saying is the real way to make money is to go deeper and to serve the people who are in front of you. Like if you do your job right, your customer force becomes your sales force because they go, I've had an amazing experience and I want to tell people. And that's why we're giving away the audiobook, because we went to all of our customers and our friends and people who have seen me speak or worked with us and had an encounter and said, hey, would you help me give away the audiobook for free so that we spread the word about the book, we add value mutually together, and then people hear about us. And then if they end up, doing business with us, we pay referral fees. But we're not going to the public to do that. We're going through our customers.
Yeah.
That's
they're your biggest advocates. They've put the money up. They're putting their stamp of approval. So it's like, at that point, it's far easier to do a deal once someone you've trusted co-signs on, the thing, right? Speaking of that, I don't want to keep people waiting any longer. Where can they get the free audiobook?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the deal. So if you go to freebrandAudiobook.com/Pineda. So
Okay.
freebrandAudiobook.com/Pineda. You can get the whole brand new book, Wealthy and Well Known. You get it completely for free. There's
Okay.
no catch. You get the entire book. We will send it to you. And it's a gift from Ryan and from me to you, because we want people to have this. And we know we don't make our money from trying to sell millions of books, right?
Right.
We make our money because a few people who read the book are going to go, I want to work with these people on a deeper level.
Yeah. So, I'm looking at the book right now, and the subtitle is Build Your Personal Brand and Turn Your Reputation into Revenue. And then you showed me kind of this cool Easter egg. So inside the cover, so I'm taking the cover off, and the actual hard copy looks like this. And it says, you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. So I know that we've kind of talked about a couple of these concepts already, but I guess my question is, you've done lots of podcasts before. You've written New York Times bestselling books. You've been a top speaker and all these things. Like, what's different in this book versus maybe other things that you have made content about before? Like, what is changing? We mentioned AI. Like, let's talk about even AI. What part of AI is changing the game?
Well, so you asked me, like, what's really different about this?
Yeah.
Here's one thing that's radically different about this book than anything we've ever done and anything we've ever seen in the subject. And buckle up, people, because this is not something you're expecting to hear. This book is the intersection of business practicality and divine spirituality.
I like that.
I know you like that. That's why I was like, we have to talk about this.
Okay.
Because everything we've been talking about so far has been
Tactical.
fractal math and tactical and making money.
Yep.
So here's what's crazy. We believe that when you find someone's uniqueness, it's not only the most immediate opportunity for business growth, it's actually accessing the divine design of their identity. Why? Well, if you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were, then what that tells us is every single thing you're going through, every heartbreak you've ever experienced, every setback you've ever survived, every tragedy that you have triumphed over, every pain has been a part of shaping you and making you and molding you into the person that you needed to become so that one day you could reach back and help someone else. And you go, like in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, someone comes up to Jesus and they're talking about there's like 617 commands in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And he's like, Jesus, which of all the commands is the most important? And Jesus says, love your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. I'm paraphrasing here.
Yep.
And then he says, love your neighbor as yourself.
Yep.
Right? So love God and love others. Now, you and I are both hardcore Bible thumping Jesus freaks.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything we do is dedicated to the Lord. But for the person listening who goes, I'm not sure how I feel about Jesus and God and all that sort of stuff yet. Okay, table that for a second and go, let's not worry about that for just right now. How do you feel about helping others and serving others? I would purport that for all of us, your highest self is when you are your highest value to others. Like, my greatest purpose in life, the highest expression of me and all that I am or whatever I am, happens in the context of me being useful and supportive and helpful to other people, to someone else.
Right.
Like, if I were here on this planet by myself and I had all the possessions, it would be completely meaningless. And so in isolation, our lives lack meaning. I think, and this is why, okay, controversial here, but I really believe that when people pursue happiness, it typically leads to loneliness. Because happiness is a self-centered pursuit. I want to feel better. I want to feel differently. I want to have something. I want to be recognized. I want to be important. I.
Mm-hmm.
And so what it tends to lead is towards, indulgence, right? Comparison, just chasing whatever, drugs, alcohol, sex. Like it's these empty things. If you are depressed and you want to be happy, I would say don't pursue happiness, pursue service. Go help somebody and tell me if that doesn't give you a sense of meaning and satisfaction and purpose for your life like you've never had. There's something magical that happens when we shift from self-centeredness to service-centeredness. And that's, for those of you that are Christians, Jesus said it directly, like love others, but not just like in the cheesy bumper sticker way,
Mm-hmm.
in the actual purpose way, to go, why am I here? I am here to love God and love others. And if you don't buy into loving God, then go table that and say, I'm here to love others. Here's another controversial thing. People say that love is spelled Time. I think it's wrong.
Okay.
I don't believe that love is spelled Time. I believe that love is spelled Serve. Love is spelled serve.
Mm.
It doesn't take a long time to serve people, right? There are people who have loved you well in your life that you haven't spent much time with.
Yeah, but
Now,
you remember what they did.
You remember what they did, right? Or they were there for a short season. Like I remember my first grade teacher. Like I remember her. I remember my high school guidance counselor. Like my high school student leadership counselor. Like I remember her. Like these people loved me well for a short season of life. You go look at our first responders, right? And you go, if they run into a burning building to save somebody, how could you not call that love?
Right.
It's like they've spent no time with you, but they're serving you. And this, again, is a lot of times people think that courage is the antidote to fear. I don't think that's right. I don't think that first responders run into burning buildings because they have bulletproof bravery. I think they run into burning buildings because they have a calling to help people. They're humble helpers. They want to serve. Like, it's not that they have a superhuman sense of strength. It's that they have a superhuman sense of service. And they go, I will lay my life down for somebody else. Why? Because it gives meaning to my life. My life has meaning in the context of my willingness and ability to serve others. And that is what a personal brand is all about from a practical money-making business perspective, but also from a spiritual design, like soul perspective.
Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, look, a lot of people they debate about what's their purpose and, all these things. And it's like we try to, do a job or a career that we find, purposeful. And I don't know. I've told people this all the time. I'm like, look, do I love flipping houses? No. It's like, it's a thing. I'm good at real estate. I love the results that being a real estate investor has given me. But if you ask me if real estate's something I obsess over, it's not.
So I got something to bounce off this.
Okay.
Everyone's like, I need to find my purpose, right? I need to find a why that makes me cry. Like you hear that, like Trent Shelton says that all the time. I'm looking for my why that makes me cry. And Simon Sinek says, start with why. Now, I love Simon Sinek. I think he's brilliant. I think he's one of the most prolific thinkers of our time. But at least when it comes to building a personal brand, I think he was very wrong. You don't start with why. You start with who.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You start with who. Let's look at this from both the business practicality and then the divine spirituality. Okay, so let's start on the business practicality. From a business standpoint, the moment you are clear on who you serve, every single other downstream decision becomes clear.
Yep.
I know exactly what products to create because I know what problems people are struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly how to price those products because I know what people can afford. I know where to advertise because I know where those people hang out. I know what words to use in my copy because I know what words catch those people's attention. I know, since I know what products to create, I know what team I need to build. I know what type of technology and infrastructure I need to build to support it. Everything becomes clear. Contrast that with somebody who goes, I want to change the whole world. I want to sell to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, now you need to advertise everywhere. You need to come up with marketing messages that apply to everybody. You have to sell products that everybody can afford, which means they're going to be cheap. Like, here's that race to commoditization again.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all about getting clear on your who from a business perspective. Now, here's again this surprising intersection that we have found. If you really look at a person's purpose, for most of us, our why is actually a who. Your why is not flipping houses, or that's a what, right? Like your what is not your why. You flip houses. That not because you're like passionate about flipping houses. Why do you flip houses? Because it helps you help a who.
Yep.
It helps you help people.
Mm-hmm.
First, probably your family.
Yep.
And your kids. And I go, if you're listening, I bet your who, like your why, if we get real, your why has nothing to do with your boss or your work for most people. Your why is, I want to provide for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make my grandparents proud. Or maybe there's some underserved group in the community that you want to help, single moms or refugees or whatever. Like, for most of us, our why is actually a who. So in that way, Simon was right. It still start with why, but the practical way to get there is that it's the who. And for you, it's like, okay, it's for my family and it's also for your customer.
Yeah.
It's not that flipping houses is why you exist. Flipping houses is the vehicle to help you teach other people about financial freedom and character and integrity and hard work and maybe Christianity and values. And so for most of us, our trade is just a vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because every trade, we're all encountering people. And this is why I think as we enter into a world of AI, leaning into this matters more and more and more. Because what is going to matter more is the human connection, the human authenticity. It's the human stories and just this visceral purpose of going, yeah, maybe the machines can solve a lot of our problems and do a lot of our work, but I don't think they're ever going to give us the true sense of community that we strive for, both to receive from other people and to give to others.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, there's a lot to touch on there. So to confirm and elaborate even on a couple of things you said. So one is, just for anyone listening, your why is a who. I 100% agree with that. And I think we all start with our family. Then eventually, once that's good, if you make it past that point, awesome. Then it becomes, okay, like, how do I help, other people, with what I do and what I know? And so some people do that through just, hey, my business is now going to have this charitable component to it. We're going to start giving more. We're going to start serving in the community. Maybe you start to share your knowledge and teach other people what you did so that they can do the same. And so there's lots of ways to keep expanding, serving other people. And so, even for me, we talked about events earlier, but it's like, do I super love flipping houses? Not really. Do I love all the stress of selling tickets and throwing an event?
Particularly to the Kingdom Summit, you lose money on.
We lose money on those.
You lose time and you lose money.
And I use all my team's resources to do it. So it's like, it's a big sacrifice and it's a big lift for everybody. But, it's the who, the person who gets there. I mean, you were there last year. It's like, man, we had 100 people get saved. We had all these people get plugged into Bible studies. And it's like, Incredible. Now that's all the work, all the money. It was worth it. Right. And even this podcast and everything else, it's like, man, sometimes it can get boring. And I'm like, oh, dude, I've been making content a long time. I've made thousands and thousands of videos.
How many more hooks can I come up with?
Like this? So, and I've only been doing this for, 5-6 years now. I've been flipping houses for 10 plus, and I played baseball my whole life. Like, anything starts to get boring after a while. But it's the who, you know, when I get a great guest, it's awesome getting to have a reason that you're going to come see me in Las Vegas. And it's like, that happens every week with awesome people. And then the people who hear the podcast. And so I 100% just agree that once you start making it about the who, everything gets clearer. And I had to go through that a lot because, for a long time, it wasn't clear who I was trying to reach because I came from a world with so much diversity. I'm like, well, I want to help athletes because, I'm an ex-professional athlete. Oh, I want to help the real estate people. But now, all these business people who don't care about real estate want to learn what I have to say about branding and running a business and running ads. And it's like, then it got very...
and if you have diluted focus, you get diluted results.
And it gave me diluted results. It got me into lawsuits. It got me into losing money on real estate deals because now my focus is over here instead of over here. And so now, as we are in 2025 going into 26, it's like, it's funny. I'm back to real estate and I'm back like hyper-focused on serving real estate investors
in a deeper way.
In a much deeper way. And I'm building a better business, getting better success for people. My business is better and I have less stress, less headaches.
Can I give you like a metaphor for this?
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, metaphor, illustration. Okay, imagine you're in a crowded room, right? And there's this like murmur, right? The only way to get like people's attention is to be extremely loud. Or the other thing you can do, right? If we're in a crowded room and you could be in a total separate side conversation and I go, hey, Ryan, everybody with the name Ryan immediately is ripped out of their current they're immediately ripped out of the conversation they're in and they would focus right on me. And in that scenario, it's not the volume of the signal, it's the specificity of the signal. And that is the way to break through the noise online.
Yeah.
Right? If you're talking to baseball players and entrepreneurs and people in branding
and Christians
and Christian, like, but
and I love all those things. That's the hard part. But yeah.
But it's like, who can you serve in the deepest way?
Right.
Right. And you go, and the Christian thing is like, you can talk to anyone who's Christian, whether they're baseball players or they're entrepreneurs, right? Like, so you can live that mission. But that I think is where the competition will be won, is going, who has the discipline to say no to chasing all the shiny objects of the like masses, and who has the discipline to say, no, I'm going to go deeper, even if I'm consciously choosing less. The irony though is what feels like a choice of less, you actually serve more people, make more money, have a deeper impact. It's this paradox. And most people just aren't willing to make that choice. So the other thing about service that I really love and that is so powerful, right? And that's a big theme in the book. And when I was young, so I was raised by a single mom, and when I was born, we lived in a trailer, and we had no money growing up. Like, we just never, we had a lot of love, and it was me and my mom and my brother. And I remember growing up, going over to friends' houses that were like nice, and they probably weren't even really that nice, but to me, they were really nice. And they had toys that we would never afford. Like, I wanted a Power Wheel, and like,
it was an actual house on the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
It was crazy.
It was, they had cereal in boxes rather than bags. And, and I just remember growing up in my life going like, man, how come some people have money and some people don't? Like, how come some people have like really nice hard cars and they go on these great vacations or whatever? And so my early motivation in life was really ambition.
Yeah.
And that drove me hard, right? And I was really like, I was a nerd in school. I was valedictorian and got a scholarship, and got involved in direct sales and was like working like crazy, and just and then I started to earn some money from doing that, because that's what happens when you do that work. And people think that money is like gonna make them happy. And it's like, it doesn't take that much money to where it stops motivating you, right? I mean, at first it does, but it's like, you don't have to have $100 million before, you've got enough money. It's like, basically, when you can go to a store and buy anything you want and go, buy any ticket to wherever you want to go, money doesn't really motivate you anymore. Well, competition is another thing that people pursue. And it's like, oh, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to have the #1 podcast. I'm going to be the #1 best-selling author. Like, I'm going to be the #1 salesperson. And that has value too. That can really, really push you. But I've seen, some of our clients are like in later years in their career, and it's just like, that wears off. I think the most powerful form of drive and motivation in the world is not ambition or competition. It's mission. Mission is this thing where there's nothing like the feeling you get when you serve somebody, when you help them. You're both immediately deeply gratified and satiated, and at the same time starving and hungry to do it with more and more people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like satisfying and also compelling at the same time. Whereas like a lot of the other highs, you can chase in this world, it's like you keep chasing it and you never get there, and it's never as good as it once was.
Yep.
You help somebody, you make a difference in their life. It's like, it's the best thing ever. And we happen to live in a world today where you can serve people and get filthy rich, like have way more than you need, just because of the tools of the day, what we call personal branding.
Yeah. Just by helping people. And I think that's important. I've been saying it for a while. I want to talk about AI because a lot of people are scared of AI, right? And even as let's call me an influencer, people are talking about influencer AIs and all these things. And this is my core belief, like that I'm running with. Like, you cannot try to fight technology. You just have to embrace it and say that this is what it is. Even if it threatens your career, your business, like, don't try to fight against it and be like, oh, dude, it'll never. It's like, all right, if you think you could stop it, whatever. I had this conversation with my ad buyer, actually. I go, dude, Zuckerberg's trying to like get rid of you. Like, they're trying to make sure that ad buyers don't even exist because they're going to try and do all the ad buying for, all their customers and make it so simple.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like AI now creates images, it creates ads, it'll do the ad buying, the optimization. As of next year, Facebook will pretty much allow you to just put your budget and they'll do the rest. And a lot of people are scared of that. And it's like, look, is it going to probably suck in the beginning? For sure. But at some point, it'll get figured out. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you had mentioned earlier that I initially struggled with, and then I just accepted, and my business is better off for it, is this idea that information is just going to be less and less valuable. Because, if I've sold tens of millions of dollars of information over the years, right? And lots of people have made money selling information, right? Consulting, events, courses, coaching, whatever you want to call it, it's all information. It's like AI is making it so simple to learn anything. Like, somebody else asked me a hard question about something specific with law, and I was like, all right, chat, what do you think? And chat was like, boom, 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 boom. It was like, that would have cost like $5,000 for a lawyer to tell me that, and it would have taken a week. We just got it in 60 seconds. Like, that's the world we're starting to live in very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, I'll differentiate and say, okay, like, what are the things that AI can't do? And you brought up a point, like the human interaction, community, all that stuff. And, we started giving services with all of our products. So it was like, we'll give you leads, we'll give you software, we'll give you all these other pieces.
Yep.
Where the information now becomes like the low thing when it used to be the thing.
Amen.
And our business is better off for it. And then I'm seeing a lot of my friends who only sell information and courses, and they're struggling.
Kind of struggle. So one of the things we say in the book is people don't pay for information.
Yep.
They pay for application.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that is happening more. It's right. I don't want you to, if I'm a new, real estate investor, I don't want you to teach me how to find leads. I want you to give me the leads.
Exactly.
Right. And the more that you step into that, and to the other conversation we were just having, if you're talking to baseball players and doing all this other stuff, you don't have as much resources to put on that. So the more that when I say serve an audience in a deeper way, that's exactly a practical expression of what I'm talking about. You're going, what's the next problem that I can solve for my audience? And that's where I think we would intelligently use AI, is to go, okay, like we're doing this a lot right now for our clients. Is we're helping them, flush out their content and write their descriptions and create, like, analyze their videos. And, that's a good example. So one of our use cases is, analyzing speaker videos. That's one of the things we do, and speech coaching. So I trained a bot on all the things that I look for when I evaluate a thing. And instead of someone paying me my fee, which is really high, we can just dump the video in the bot, and the bot gets it 85% of the way there. So I think those are the healthy applications of AI in your business. And it's not just going, okay, how do I use AI to access information? It's going, how do I use AI to aid in the application for my clients? Because even though they could do it, they don't want to.
Yeah.
Right? Even though I could build my own AI bot to find leads and sell to investors, I don't want to. And I don't know how. You should do that, right? That's what you do. You know how to do that. And then I go, great. If I decide I want to invest in real estate, Ryan has solved this problem. I pay you the money. You save me the time.
Well,
and that's the transaction.
And I think the beauty is it's still better for the customer, because without that AI tool, maybe it costs me, I don't know, let's just use easy numbers. Like it's $2,000 before all that, but now it's 500.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, well, how many more customers are going to get? Because now I can sell you it for way less.
Yeah. Now, I think there's a lot of things that are scary about AI. There's some existential things that scare me. And there's also like the job loss thing, right? As you go, well, if you were the person who
I'm concerned about that.
The job loss thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you were the person who was scouring the internet, compiling the database to like put the leads together that Ryan is turning around and selling, like, you're in trouble. But if you can be the person who creates the AI bot and the process to do it, your value to Ryan just went up exponentially.
Yep. You know how to tweak it, run it, manage it.
Yeah, right. Because you don't want to deal with it either. Like, you look at, it's real simple. People pay money to solve problems. That's it. We pay money to solve problems. If you're worried about your job, that's because you're solving low level problems.
You're not solving big.
You need to solve higher level problems, right? Like and if you solve higher level problems, you will always be valuable to your organization or to a different organization or to the general public to start your own business. So AI accelerates the ability of all of us to solve problems. And we better be thinking about that. Otherwise, someone else is going to do it first. And it's just going, how can I solve problems faster? How can I serve my audience in a deeper way? AI empowers that. Now, some of the more existential threats and stuff, I mean, we could get into that. But like, at the end of the day, Jesus is my only strategy. That's why I say that anyways, right? It's like, if someone's dropping, if we go to nuclear war, like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm build a bunker? Okay, great. And what happens when I run out of food in the bunker? Like, I'm not, pretty boy, single mama boy, Rory is not going to be like working the farm and planting my own food. Like Jesus is my only strategy. So, that's the same with nuclear war or AI bots or whatever. But I do genuinely believe that I believe in people. And I go, there's definitely going to be bad people using AI to create bad things like viruses and hacking. But that means there's also going to be brilliant people using AI to do good things like prevent viruses and prevent hacking, right? And so that's always been the case with every technology. It's not the tool, it's the person that's using the tool. And that's why we need more good people. And by the way, that's why we're giving away the book, is going, we want people to have it. We think it empowers people to be better.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, the book link is down below in the description.
Freebrand.audiobook.com/Pineda.
Yep. So we'll link to that down below. But let's talk about like your guys' ideal customer, right? Because you're saying, look, yeah, we work with some big famous people, but that's the outliers. We work with normal everyday business owners who don't have a lot of followers, but who are doing really well in their business. How is it that you guys are able to help them? Like where does their help come from if it's not in like getting all these views?
Well, it is in increasing their exposure typically.
Okay.
Okay. we're just not optimizing for the maximum number of views. We're optimizing for the views from the right people.
Right.
We're optimizing for trust is what we're optimizing for. We're optimizing for trust at scale. So it is increasing their exposure. I mean, we talked about reputation earlier. Where does reputation come from? We have something called the reputation formula that says results times reach equals reputation. Results times reach equals reputation. That's the whole reason that for personal branding to exist anyways. It's kind of like, your results is sort of like your offline, like what is your real expertise? What is your experience? How trustworthy are you? But then your reach matters a lot. Like if people don't know about you, they can't buy from you. So if we can just transpose that, but I think what a lot of business people equate in their mind, they equate personal branding or online to like silly, cheesy, go viral kind of stuff, gimmicks, hacks, dancing and pointing and like algorithms and trending music. And it's like, no, just do the thing you do offline, but do it online.
Yeah.
That's, so I think we are still trying to increase their exposure. It's just the scoreboard is not, we're not orienting for maximum number of views. We're orienting towards automating trust.
Now, with automating trust, what are things you do? So, I mean, obviously it's like, we're going to go out and create content now. Obviously you guys have helped a lot of people write books.
Yep.
And build trust that way.
Yeah. So here's where it starts. So we've got 12 different 2-day experiences that we take people through. Like if you go functionally, what is Brand Builders Group? It's a training curriculum of 12 different 2-day experiences. The first 2-day experience is the one that's pretty much covered in this book. It's we facilitate, a bunch of introspective questions to help somebody realize, what is my real uniqueness? What is my giftedness? Who am I meant to serve? What problem do I solve in the world? And what is my best monetization strategy, my fastest path to cash? So that's check. Okay. So let's say we check that off. The next thing that happens is we take somebody through a process called captivating content. But this isn't creating like the kind of fodder and social media content. This is creating their body of work, their original sort of thought leadership. What we're often doing here is it's like we're taking the knowledge that's in their head, extracting it, and codifying it.
It's like a keynote, like what you would probably have in a keynote.
For a speaker, it would be a keynote.
Yeah.
But for a financial planner, it might be, here's the proprietary way that I use to evaluate stocks.
Yeah. It's like your 10 commandments, your own personal.
But it's your lens, right?
Yep.
So if it were you, right, it would be like, here's the Ryan Pineda way for evaluating a deal.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I mean, that's what we wrote in The Wealthy Way.
There it is.
Yeah. This is my way of building wealth.
Which is why you create a book, right?
Yeah.
Once you have codified your way, you go, the book kind of falls out of it, right? And it's like, you're not going to make your money most likely from being an author. That's not going to be the majority.
No, it has not done much for me.
But it's
compared to everything else.
A lead generation tool, maybe. Yeah. A learning resource for your people.
It's a great entry point into who I am, what I do, what I believe.
And look, you may not have lines out the door for your next book signing at Barnes & Noble, but when you meet a legit qualified prospect who's genuinely already interested in what you do and you hand that to them, boom, you just blew their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're giving me this for free. It's all neat and organized. It's right here. It automates trust. That's what a book does. It automates trust. I, as a user, am having an encounter with you that's very deeply, it's a deep connection. You're not there.
Yeah.
And that's the power. So anyway, so it's codifying. Think of it. You could think of it as a keynote. We definitely, we work with some of the biggest speakers and authors in the world. But think of it more as like your secret family recipe.
Yeah. The way I think of it, the way you're saying it now, it's like, it is your way, like you said, and that can be packaged in a book, a course, a keynote, a
TED Talk, a half-day training, a
whatever,
2-day training, a
right?
6-month curriculum, a consulting program. Yeah. So it's all of those things. And even if you don't sell it as a consulting program, let's use the financial advisor as an example, right? It's like, we don't teach financial advisors. Some do. Some want to actually be speakers and actually want to write books and like monetize their podcasts. So we do that for some of them, but not most of them. For most of them, what we're doing is we're codifying their unique methodology so that when someone walks into their office, their whole team knows this is our playbook. This is how we do it. And by the way, you need to create original proprietary processes to separate yourself from ChatGPT.
Yep.
And you go, these are things that we protect from going on there with lawyers and guns, right? That's but you mostly lawyers. So you go, you cannot get this information because it's not publicly available. It's only our way. It's our system. And if you want our system, it's like, sure, I can learn real estate investing from whoever else. But it's like, no, I like Ryan. I trust Ryan. I want to learn his way. I don't want the ChatGPT way. I don't want the Cardone way. I don't want the whoever else way. I want the Ryan way. Why? Because he's a human that I like and I trust. Why? I don't know. Because he's human and I feel connected to him. That's the future.
Yeah.
That's the future. And so we come up with your secret recipe.
Yep.
Then we do take everyone through world-class presentation craft. Not because they're all going to become professional speakers, not because they're all going to get paid to speak, but because the two fastest ways to get customers, it's not selling to strangers on the internet. One, we've already talked about. It's referrals. The second is presentations. The fastest way to take a complete, absolute stranger and then turn them into a lifelong loyal fan is a 1-hour world-class presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to reframe of what you think of when you hear presentation, right? You don't just think like on stage, at church, or it could be that. It could be a workshop. It could be a webinar. It could be a podcast, right? There's probably a lot of people that are listening to this conversation that have never heard of Rory Vaden.
Yeah.
There will hopefully be a couple that are like, hey, I really like this guy, right? Not all of them, but you don't need all of them, right?
Yep.
You need a couple dozen. But it is the spoken word, which again, I think is going to, if you're telling your story, I think that matters a lot. So that's what we call that phase one, is all of your your positioning and your unique content.
Let me just add to this for everyone, just to give it real world context. So, I used to not really have a system per se. It's like, we teach a lot of things with, back to my old way of like very appeal to everyone. I'm like, yeah, dude, we have Airbnb, we've got flipping houses, wholesaling, I do some multifamily stuff. I'm like, we just want to teach you to invest in real estate, right? And it worked just because my reach was so large. But it's funny now because all the things you're explaining is now what I do. So then I just got super dialed in for our wholesale only system.
Mm-hmm.
And we call it the cash flow 2.0 system. And it's unique. It's proprietary. I don't really, because it takes 9 hours in a workshop to teach the whole system. So it's like, it's not on YouTube. It's not, on any of these things. But, it is the system where we give them the leads. We give them the softwares. We have the scripts. We have the contracts. We have everything in this system.
Application.
Everything, right? One-on-one coaching. And so, they can choose to have that system or not. But the way we get them into that system and even make them aware of that system is a 1-hour presentation that we run as a webinar every day.
Do you do it live still?
No.
Okay.
So, every day it's just running. People can get to know who we are. And boom, like they watch it. They're like, I would actually like to go to this Cash Flow 2.0 workshop, learn about this system. They buy a ticket. And then for 9 hours, they get to see it, learn about it, and decide whether or not they want to do it.
That's so good. I mean, there again, here it is, right? You're a living example of this. And you go, does that work because webinars work? No, it has nothing to do with freaking webinar.
That's the vehicle.
That's the vehicle. It's a human experience of going, I spent an hour with you and you blew my freaking mind.
Yeah.
Like if you want customers, like you want new leads, give them an invitation, spend an hour with them, blow their freaking mind.
Yep.
Like, and that goes, I've never heard of you to like, now I'm a loyal follower.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I don't buy from you, but I'm definitely a step much closer.
Yeah. Maybe down the road.
So you have to learn to present, right? So then in phase two, so our phase two is what we call the marketing phase. That's all the social media, websites, copywriting, podcasts, funnels, marketing automation. So we do have a whole like digital component. Then in phase 3 is we call it the selling phase, and that is where we teach people like how to sell high dollar offers and expensive things through really casual conversations. We do have a thing called bestseller launch plan. We've helped a lot of people sell a lot of books. We've had 19 clients become New York Times bestsellers in the last couple of years.
That's crazy.
And it's nuts. And it's, they're not gaming the system or doing anything. We're just teaching them how to incentivize their audience to buy, and what are different things that they can do. And we're always experimenting with stuff like give away the audiobook for free, right? That's our big experiment right now.
Yep.
So we're just getting the word out to a lot of people. And then our phase 4 stuff is scaling. So it is cash flow, tax strategy, systems, operations, but exclusively for personal brands. So we never, our Who is a personal brand. We never work with large corporations. We could work with an executive at a corporation, but not the corporate entity.
You're not going to tell
itself.
Coca-Cola what to do.
No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Nope.
But if the CEO of Coke wanted to do something personally,
we wouldn't work with Coke because I don't believe in Coca-Cola. But
okay, that's a different story then.
But of a company, right? So
yeah, of Chick-fil-A.
We would do it for Chick-fil-A for sure. But yeah, Coca-Cola is probably not going to be showing up with any brand deals for me anytime soon.
Yeah, it's probably not the healthiest thing. So no, I mean, all of it makes sense. Like I said, as you keep talking about it, in my mind, I just keep checking off. I'm like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. All right, cool.
That's awesome.
Like,
I didn't realize that you had narrowed your focus.
Me neither until I was forced to. I think you just you learn. My journey's interesting when I really look in hindsight, because I've just kind of winged everything, and it's interesting because you have this shiny object syndrome that's so pervasive everywhere, right? And you got to think, for a guy like me, it's amplified because I interview so many great people every week.
Yeah, so you're learning new ideas.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, that sounds like a great idea. Like we should try that. I just think about it and I'm like, okay, well, it now becomes harder to say no, and all that stuff. And that's just the reality of it. It's like I've gotten so much more disciplined after making mistakes and after getting shiny object syndrome. And then, you look back at it all in hindsight and you're like, wow, this one thing has just stuck through all of it. The different trends, the different things, the different whatever. And it's like, okay, what do I have to show for all these different ideas? Well, real estate has always been there. It's been consistent. I know it better than anything. I've got the most experience with it. Okay, cool. That's one thing that's stayed consistent. Okay, 2, media. I've gotten really good at doing media. Okay, so that's not changing anytime soon. Like, keep doing that. And those are the 2 main things. And yeah, it doesn't mean the other things weren't successful. They were successful, but not as successful.
Totally. And look, I mean, that's your uniqueness. You're finding it. So, okay, here's another illustration. Let's just say that you have 10 units of resource in a company. Okay. Now, what is a unit of resource? Time, team, capital, technology, prayer. Okay. Those are all units of resource. If you take 10 units of resource and you spread it across 10 initiatives, which are whatever all the things you're selling and going on, audiences you're serving, each initiative on average gets 1 unit of resource. That's exactly what most of the world does.
Yeah.
We're spread thin. We even use that term. We're spread thin. We're overwhelmed. So if instead the whole strategy, right? We said this earlier. If you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. If instead I took my 10 units of resource and I went all in on one thing, what would happen? I would suck at the other 9. They would all disappear. And on the one, the likelihood of me succeeding at that one doesn't just double. It goes up by a factor of 10 exponentially. Not plus, because I'm competing against a bunch of other people who are all distracted, who don't have the discipline to say no. This is it. And by the way, so my very first book was called Take the Stairs. That book, Take the Stairs, is a metaphor for the psychology of overcoming procrastination and being more disciplined. That's what that whole book is about. It's funny, all these years later, to now be writing this book, Wealthy and Well Known. and realizing that discipline is still such a huge part of this conversation. And it's what you just said, Ryan. It's the discipline to say no. And, I mentioned growing up, we didn't have much. And so early in my life, I thought wealth was an abundance of money. That was my orientation. Later, as I was doing a bunch of stuff, making money, but being stressed, doing all this stuff, my thinking evolved to say I felt like wealth was an abundance of time. Now, I don't believe that because I've got lots of rich clients and rich friends who've all sold their businesses.
They're miserable.
And they go massive depression.
Yeah.
They have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Now I think wealth is simply an abundance of peace. And I think peace comes from two places: loving God and loving others.
I agree.
It's exactly what Jesus said. And when Jesus says, my peace I give you.
Yeah.
My peace I leave you. It's really peace. Now, the irony is, even though the book is called Wealthy and Well Known, you don't have to make more money to have more peace.
Yeah.
For
you can choose it right now.
Yeah, you can choose it right now. And on the spiritual thing, Jesus is available to everybody right now. Doesn't matter. He does not care how much money you make. It does not matter. It matters, what's your heart for him and do you love him? And again, if you're not on the religion train, you go love others.
Yep.
Go serve somebody. Like, you'll feel better about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that a lot, you'll make a lot of business. You'll make a lot of money. Why? Because money comes from solving problems. People pay money to solve problems. That also looks like serving others. That also looks like, what's my expertise? My expertise is that I'm most powerfully positioned to serve the person I once was.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's actually kind of why I wrote The Wealthy Way. The subtitle for The Wealthy Way is "Don't Go Broke Trying to Get Rich." So kind of same thing. It's like, yeah, I mean, we're in the business space. People want to make more money. Nothing wrong with that. But when it starts to become at the expense of your health, your family, your faith, well, it's like, bro, you're going to go broke. I don't care how much money you got, right? A divorce will kill you. Bad health will literally kill you. Being spiritually dead will destroy you for eternity. Like, they all destroy you. And that was the message I always wanted to get out to people, was like, true wealth is so much more than just money.
Amen.
And I think that's the easiest way to put it. It's peace.
And I sense that with you. Like, I'm around lots of other, call it influencers, since you used the term earlier, but like, we have a lot of clients that are really wealthy. Like, we have 7 clients that are billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
They're not all happy. Some of them are miserable.
Right.
And then some of them are just stressed.
Yeah.
Right. There's just so much going on. It's overwhelming. And I certainly have been there. Like, I don't want to pretend like I've never been there. Like,
yep.
You don't build I don't know a successful entrepreneur that has not been through seasons of like,
yeah, it's
overwhelming at times. But like, when I'm around you, you're just like, I don't sense stress. I sense peace.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that is spiritual. And then I also think part of it is going, when you focus on the thing that you can do better than anyone else, there tends to be less stress because all of your resources are on a thing and you have the right team and you know what needs to be done. And it just operates more like clockwork. You're living in your uniqueness. And so you don't carry the weight of stress.
Yeah. One of my favorite Bible verses is Philippians 4:6-7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. I think about that a lot.
Hallelujah.
Amen. I think about that a lot because it's like, how many business people do we know that are anxious, worried about the future, right? Majority. And so what does the Bible says? The Bible's like, hey, just give them up to God. Just submit. It literally says submit. Like, it's you're at the DMV. Submit your request. And he will give you peace beyond understanding. You won't even know why you have peace. And that's why I say, like, for me, it's so crazy because, I wrote that book 3+ years ago because people kept asking me, they're like, I don't get it. How are you running all these businesses and you have kids and you're married and you're going on these mission trips and then you're going to play golf and then you're doing this? I don't get it. And I was like, all right, I'll like write a manual of what I believe and how I do it and, all these things. And, I talk about my schedule a lot. I'm like, hey, I don't work the weekends. And they're like, no, for real though. Like, what did you do when you started? I'm like, no, I'm being serious. Like, I've never worked 80-hour weeks. It was never part of my journey. And I was broke and I still figured it out. And it's like, it's not like I had money. It's like, no, I literally was broke. And I just always made the commitment that I was like, I'm not going to miss church to go do any business thing. I am not going to miss time with my kids and my wife and everything. Like, it's not that important to me.
Good for you.
Like, and like, I don't travel. I'm like, I'll just stay here. I'll make people come to me. Because I refuse to sacrifice the other things I've got. Because I don't need to achieve more in business. Like, I was happy when I was flipping couches and just flipping houses. This other stuff is all extra. And, even for me now, it's like, okay, even when I deal with a storm, okay, the real estate market goes through a tough time and I lose millions. Okay, cool. That I get past that. God helps me through it. It's not easy, but still somehow I just got through it. Right. And then, you deal with lawsuits and then you deal with businesses shutting down and then you deal with, now we got tariffs and an economy and war. And you're like, it'd be so easy to get anxious and stressed about all this stuff. And it's like, to your point, for one, most of it's irrelevant to you. Like, it's not going to affect you. You're not going to go and
That's true.
do anything about it.
We know way more than we should. It's just like, I don't think we were at
I'm not going to Iran anytime soon.
No.
Like, I don't know how this affects me at all. Like, I got things I actually do affect or that affect me that are big enough things to deal with.
Well, and it's always going to be that way. And it's always been that way. Like, there's always stress. And it's like, here's the other thing. It's like, at some point, we're going to lose all of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, don't, like, this is happening. Like, at some point, we're going to get sick or we're going to die or it's going to disappear. Like, at some point, it all goes away. Right. And that's why, I joke earlier, I'm like, Jesus is like legit my only strategy.
Yep.
Like, what else am I going to do? Like, death is coming for me. And sooner or later, whether it's tomorrow or it's in 50 years, like, and it's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to try to do that with money? Or it's like, Jesus is my only strategy.
I heard a funny quote one time. Somebody goes, if you're alive right now, you have 100% success rate of like getting through stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, we've all been through like lots of things. Most people have like gone broke or done different things and like, you're still here. You got through it.
Yeah. But which is, yeah, that's good. At the same time, there's pretty much 100%. Death has like 100% success rate, right?
Yep, that's also going to happen.
When you zoom out, it's like this is a line from my first book, Take the Stairs, which is that our ability to have peace is directly proportionate to the term of our perspective.
Yeah.
Peace comes from zooming out,
right?
As you go, like let's say I'm driving along today and I get a flat tire.
Yeah.
Right. And my family at dinner is like, hey, Daddy, how was your day? And I'm like, oh, you're not going to believe it. I had this flat tire. It was terrible. It was raining on me. I was stuck on the side of the road. And that's because a flat tire in relation to the things that could happen inside of one day is like a pretty big event. It doesn't happen very often. But imagine being on your deathbed like years from now.
You're worried about a flat tire.
And you're like, yeah, tell me about your life. Like, do you tell them about the flat tire? Like, no, you don't even remember the flat tire.
Yeah.
Because a flat tire in relation to a lifespan is a small problem.
It's nothing.
And then you think about, what about the course of human history and eternity? How much does that flat tire affect anything? It's like, no.
Literally nothing.
A problem in relation to today is a big problem. A problem in relation to a lifespan is a small problem. A problem in relation to eternity is no problem.
It is not a problem. This is also one of my favorite verses. This is what James, brother of Jesus, says about.
Love this. My favorite book of the Bible.
Yeah. So I named my firstborn James. So consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may become mature and complete, not lacking anything.
I remember we were talking about like, you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. Every obstacle you've overcome, every setback you survived, every tragedy you have triumphed over has made you complete. It's made you into so that you're not lacking anything. Lacking anything for what? Lacking anything to reach back and help the person who's going through that same thing right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a person. That's funny that you bring that up. I had literally someone I hadn't heard from in probably a year call me out of the blue. He's like, "Hey, you got time talking?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Dude, I'm like going through this thing, and I know you've been through it, man. Like, what do you think's gonna happen?" I was like, "Bro, you're gonna be fine. Like, this is not even that big of a deal." He's like, "Dude, I'm freaking out, man. Like, I have a kid on the way, and like, I didn't do anything wrong, and this is happening." I'm like, "Dude, trust me. Like, nothing's gonna happen."
Yeah, is this a lawsuit thing?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, we got sued, and it's like, I mean, so Kevin Harrington was one of our early clients. He was the original shark on Shark Tank on
yeah,
like season 1.
yeah.
And he told me, he said, "You're not really on the path to success until you've been sued as a business person." Because he's got like lawyers that does nothing but deal with frivolous lawsuits. It's just like people can sue you for no reason.
Yeah.
You could do everything right and you just get sued. And it's just like for him, it was wild to see his perspective of like, oh, this is just a part of business, like paying taxes. Or I mean,
It's just a cost of doing
it's just a
business.
cost of doing business. It's like, oh, this is like a thing that happens, and you have a process for it, just like you do for paying your taxes or for like investing in new technology and equipment. It's
R&D.
and again, it's that perspective of around some because when the first time you go through, it's just like you could have done nothing wrong, but you feel like a criminal just because of
Yeah.
they always lie and like
Yeah. Yeah.
they say the most flagrant things. That would be my one piece of advice if someone's going through a lawsuit. If I were, hopefully I don't have to ever go through one again. I've been through a couple, but if I went through another one, I won't read any of the lawyers. I won't read anything.
Yeah.
Like literally what I learned after, because I didn't know the first time, but the second time it happened, I'm like, oh, they're writing these letters deliberately to make you scared and angry and because they're hoping that you'll just like acquiesce
And fold.
and fold.
Yeah.
And it's just like the amount of nonsense. And so
Yeah.
but yeah, those are just, bad things happen, right? And it's like, it's a legal thing or it's a health thing. It's a relational thing. Like,
Well, that goes back to even with the wealthy way, right? Like my whole point is I 100% agree with when you put the eternal perspective on everything, everything seems tiny.
amen.
You're just like, bro, losing money on a deal, a business shutting down, that like whatever. No big deal. Getting a flat tire, like whatever the case is, it's all so insignificant in the span of eternity. But even like, for our time here on earth, I always like think of the perspective of, especially in business, I'm like, man, what's Elon Musk dealing with?
Right.
You know?
Imagine the magnitude of the problems
Oh my gosh.
or a world leader, right?
Well,
like,
look how many times every problem that we just mentioned here. Okay, cash flow issues. Elon dealt with so many cash flow issues with Tesla and everything else as he was starting. He dumped every dollar he had into Tesla and SpaceX. Okay, how many lawsuits is Elon in?
constantly.
I don't know, one a day at least. What is he dealing with on the political side now and all this crap with Trump? And
Oh yeah, his reputational thing. Now some of that,
Yeah.
He does to himself,
Yeah.
like smoking weed on podcasts and stuff. But
either way, he's dealing with problems so beyond what I could even imagine that I'm like, dude, my problems are like nothing.
Which, by the way, is why he makes so much money.
Yeah.
The bigger the problems you solve, the more money you make. Right? Like that's why the guy that's created AI, that's like Sam Altman, right? Like, why does he have so much money? He's solving problems at scale. Like, what does Jeff Bezos do at Amazon? He solves millions of problems for all of us. How do we get our toothpaste and how do I get it tonight? Like
Right.
without leaving
That's
my
a hard
couch.
problem to solve.
and he has solved it at scale for lots of people. So,
Across the
whatever.
world.
Love him or hate him. And this is the thing. I think money unfortunately doesn't always have to do with character. I know some people that have high character and just like don't make money. I think money is like a pretty objective thing. It follows the ability to solve problems with speed.
Mm.
And it's like, if you can solve problems with speed, you're going to make a lot of money.
I never heard the second part of that before. Because, I've heard like, hey, the bigger the problem you solve, the more money you make. But adding with speed is a good
Oh yeah.
second step.
Money loves speed. Money follows speed. Why? Because what do like again, I learned this growing up, right? And I I love my mom, I love my family we came from, but like we didn't have a lot of money. So, we go to a sporting event, we're not paying $50 for parking.
Yeah.
We're parking 3 hours away and walking, right? Like,
Yeah.
and we're not paying $9 for a popcorn. We're
Yeah.
like we're
We're
sneaking
sneaking
in,
one in.
sneaking stuff in. But like just the same thing with like gas. It's like, okay, I'm gonna drive to the other side of town to save like 3 cents on a tank of gas. So when you don't have money, I mean, this is the difference, right, between rich people and poor people. Poor people spend time to save money.
Yeah.
Rich people spend money to save time.
Mm-hmm.
Like the team member example, we're saying, hey, if you can solve a problem inside of our organization and you can solve it fast and I don't have to deal with it, I will pay you more money.
Mm-hmm.
Your value just went up.
Yeah.
Right? So what are we paying? We're paying to condense time. Same reason why you buy a book. What does a book do? A book takes 10 years of your life and it consolidates it into something that somebody can digest in 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the $20 I'm paying is really a consolidation of 10 years of somebody's life that I can learn. So it's like I can get 10 years of knowledge in 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I pay them the $20. And that's why books are the cheapest, best training in the world.
Yeah.
We spend money to save time. That's what rich people do.
Yeah. When I'm teaching a lot of people how to get into real estate investing, most of them are W-2 employees. And so I always talk to them about like the idea of the employee mindset versus the owner mindset. And so like the employee mindset is, hey, I am going to trade time for money.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, if you're a business owner and I'm like, hey, I want to work for Brand Builders Group, and you're interviewing me, and I'm like, okay, so what's it pay? How many hours a week do you expect me to work? Right. Like that's the typical employee conversation. But it's capped because you either work more hours to make more money, or you hope that there's the potential for a raise. But like every position has a cap anyways to what it's worth.
Now what you get is security, though.
You do get security, right?
And that's the trade-off, is you get the security. So it's not wrong, it's not bad, but it is that.
Yeah. So your ceiling's limited for security, right? Assuming AI doesn't take your job. That's a whole different topic, right? But now it's like, okay, well, if you want to make more money, you got to get on the owner's side. And so what do the owners do? Well, the owners say, hey, I'll take the opposite side of the bet. I will trade money for time. And so you're now taking the risk up front of saying, hey, I'm going to put up money, AKA to start the business, to get the leads, to hire the employees, to, all this stuff. I'm paying for other people's time. Somebody else spent all the time to generate the lead. Somebody spent all the time to buy that building and lease it to me and create this equipment that we use. How much time was spent to create the iPhone? Like everything in the world is just a function of how much time somebody spent to create the thing. And so, owners are just buying time regardless. And so, it's just one of those things where it's like, all right, I'll take the riskier bet. I'll buy somebody else's time, but I know that by buying it, I make more than whatever I paid for the time, if it all works out the way I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, it's a hard concept for people to shift their mind to, because, you're conditioned from school to seek the security and safety. And, it's like, well, there's a cost to that. Your upside's limited.
Yeah, there's a cost to both, right? I mean, when you take risk, the cost is stress, right?
There's new things that some people can't handle.
Yeah, so it's all a trade-off, right? And it's like, I don't think everyone should be an entrepreneur, but I think, most people trade their time for money, and rich people trade their money for time, and they also choose to get paid for their result. That's the other big difference, right?
Yeah.
Is it's like I'll
bet on myself.
I'll bet on myself. That was one of the best pieces of advice I ever got early in my career. There was a guy named Randy Gage, and he said, you should always be the number one investor in your own dream.
Yeah.
And it's like, how many times we were like, we got to go raise money and have other people invest? It's like, will you bet money on yourself? Will you put money into your own education? And that's the other thing, like education is like a great collapser of time.
Yeah.
It's going, I'm paying to learn from someone who's already been there.
You know what I think is going to happen? So we were talking about AI and jobs, and I'm like, that's my kind of biggest unknown with all this. Like, my hope is that, yeah, AI does automate a lot of jobs, but then new jobs emerge from it, right?
Right.
That's the hope.
Well, it's just like manufacturing. Like at first, everyone was like working on,
Yeah.
manual hand stitching stuff, and then it's like we all had a new job. It
Yeah.
was different.
So ideally that continues to happen, but who knows? Maybe at some point, I don't know, right? But then I was just starting to think, like, we're in a inflationary world where wages for sure are not catching up to the cost of living. You can just go look at the cost of living versus wage growth, and they're not keeping pace. And so people are, now struggling more than ever before. Like, the middle class is getting destroyed. And so I talked to a lot of these people, and I'm like, guys, I mean, here's the problem. It's like, your job pays what it pays. It's not going to be going crazy anytime soon. Like, you're going to have to become an owner out of necessity. Okay. I mean, this is why, a lot of women have to work now and have double households working when it wasn't the norm 30 years ago. It's like become a necessity in most households. And so it's like, okay, so what happens here? And I'm like, I think the future is going to be many people are going to become hybrid entrepreneurs, because you're not going to lose you're not going to go full on as a full-time entrepreneur. You do need some kind of safety
and benefits and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a rosy road to be an entrepreneur. Like, not to just jump ship.
Exactly. I think there's going to be a lot of hybrid entrepreneurs.
Interesting. Well, I love that. That's really good for the Wealthy and Well-Known book. If you're probably using your personal brand, then if that's the direction that things go, you're probably using your personal brand and your reputation to drive your side hustle.
It already is, at least in real estate, it's already the case, because in real estate, it's most normal people with W-2 jobs want to buy a rental property or want to flip a house. Like, you're becoming an entrepreneur the moment you own a piece of real estate.
Yeah, you're taking your income from your job and you're
starting a business. Yeah, this house is a business.
Yeah.
And so it's like, in my world, it's just kind of normal, but I think it's going to become more sophisticated, where it's like, okay, I want to do more of this because it's the only way I see to keep up.
Well, and theoretically, like, AI will empower a lot of that, right? Because it's like, just like social media has, and just like the internet has, each of them were a step towards it became easier and easier to start a business.
Yep.
And it's like, imagine when you don't have to pay $10,000 for articles of incorporation from a lawyer. And you go, oh, I just go ChatGPT.
Boom.
Write some articles.
There's my LLC.
Right? Boom. What do I do to get an EIN number? Oh, just do this. Oh, like,
yeah. What are the steps to starting a business? And it's like, oh, get an LLC, get an EIN. You're like, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Get a bank account. Like, it becomes easier. So I think, I mean, like, remember I said earlier that we believe the best marketing strategy in the world is a changed life. At Brand Builders Group, it's like, I don't know, I would say I'm scared, but I'm like, I'm nervous about the future a bit. Like, I have an eye on, like, oh, what's AI going to do to us? I mean, in many ways, it's like we teach people, knowledge. So what happens if they can just get that knowledge? One is going, well, we need to create proprietary knowledge that's not in the public domain, which is what we teach people how to do. We talked about that.
Yep.
But I think the big strategy is the same that it's always been. It's going, how do I solve problems for people faster? How do I serve them in a deeper way? What's the next problem that they have, and how can I get rid of that problem for them? And AI should accelerate our ability to do that and reduce the friction to do that. And if we all go in that direction, it should be good. Now, if they all become bots and they overpower us and they decide they don't need us, then
it goes
Jesus is my only strategy.
That's what I was about to say. We already know what happens at that point. I love it. Well, bro, I always have a great time hanging out with you, man. I appreciate you. Guys, go get the audiobook. And if you want to, Amazon, everywhere, they can get the hard copy.
You can. Now, if you go to freebrandAudiobook.com/Pineda,
get
the audiobook for free.
Yep.
If you do that, on the next page, it'll show you like, here's where you can get the hard
Oh,
copy
okay,
too
yeah.
on it.
So definitely get the audiobook
Yeah.
and then get the hard copy afterwards and support that. And, we'll be rooting for you guys. Hopefully, you get another bestseller with this one.
Thanks
So
for having me, dude.
yeah,
I love the way you do what you do with a
yeah.
sense of peace and humility and totally service centered. And I mean, how many of the principles have we talked about today where it's like you're a living example of like gone through the steps and done the thing, man. So
I can tell you it works.
I value our friendship so much, and I thanks for the contribution you make to everybody.
Appreciate you, man. Well, guys, go check all that out and we will see you on the next episode. Peace.